Do you get sweaty balls during the summertime in your shop? Well, I'm a lot like you, and I finally had enough and I did something about it. So stay tuned. In this video, we're gonna go over the MiniSplit system install, cost breakdown, and first impressions. Hello friends. I'm gonna do a quick overview and a first impression of my MiniSplit that I've recently installed. You can see one of the heads behind me. It's a 36,000 BTU AC and furnace setup. I haven't used the heat yet because it's obviously hot outside. And there's my third head. The unit that I got actually has an expansion for a fourth head, and the kit only came with 3, so if I wanted to I can expand to another one, and it adds additional cooling capacity. It's not a shared 36,000, it is an additional whatever the cooling head would be. I think it would be easiest to just straight away dive into the things that I really don't like about it. And one of the main things, and it's not even like I don't like about it, it's just kind of a weird little complaint because I've used traditional AC units my entire life, so that's what I have experience with. But it doesn't cool quickly. Like if you jacked it on, turned all the fans on really, really high, I don't get the same energy rush of a traditional like squirrel cage AC unit. And that is more of a small complaint because it doesn't take long to actually cool the space down. Once the unit's on and running and you've got the fans jacked up, you could start feeling it within 10 minutes or so, but it probably takes a good 20 to 30 minutes to start dropping about 10 degrees, or depending on how hot it is. Right now, I'm sure it's around 70 degrees with pretty low humidity, but let me look. Yeah, so just a little above 70 maybe. Humidity is great. In between, 44% humidity. It's not bad. The other thing that I really don't like, the remotes that came with each head. I thought they were going to be more specific, so whenever I was setting it up, we set it up to where it's, they're all labeled. I don't know if you can see that. So I've got my A, B, and C head over here, but one single remote works all of it. So if I want to, I can just hit off here, off there. That's the other thing I don't like. But the remote, this is why I don't like that. And then off here. Oh, caught it, but it didn't do anything with it. So if you switch to this remote, it does go off. And then this A remote, aim over there, still hitting buttons. Nope, not off. Not off. Yeah. Oh, there it goes. Finally went off. See, stuff like that. It's kind of strange little quirks like that make me not really enjoy it. I wish I had just a traditional thermostat on each one and I can crank it. Maybe there is one that I'm not familiar with or know about. But those are the two things I really found that I particularly don't enjoy, is that it really doesn't blow the way that I thought it was going to, as like hard, like you feel this cold air blasting against you. However, it is extremely cold air that comes out of these units, and it is a lot of air that blows out of it, and it's really, really nice once it's actually up and running and cruising. So those are the two things that really have bothered me so far. I've only had the kit up and actually running in my garage for about a month. My little 2,000 square foot main bay between the the two little areas back here. Excuse me. One of the things I think I've got going for me is that the ceilings are actually pretty short. It's a little over a 10 foot or a 10.5 foot ceiling. So to actually cool this space it's not that bad. I think that my energy bill might cruise up about 50 to 60 bucks depending on how I'm using it. If I'm not gonna be here, I do normally turn it off. See, I just hit the button, it didn't turn on. There it goes. And it beeps like it acknowledges you. There, that's not bad. See, just little quirks. But I've only had it up for about a month or so. I'm projecting about $50 to $60 a month extra. As you can see, there's some light coming through down at my door there, and then my door there. So I've got some ceiling I need to do. That's not insulated. This door here is not insulated. So the walls and then the attic space are all insulated. So At least I've got that going for me. So the cooling effect lasts really, really well. Even if you shut it off, it would stay very comfortable in here for the rest of the day. So the main things that I do like about it that talked me out of the adding a coil and was it outside unit, compressor, coil and compressor, whatever it is that you would put on that to make it a traditional unit. I've got a buddy that does AC work, and he came out and he looked at it and he's like, hey, he's like, I can throw a coil and a compressor on it. He's like, it'll cost you about 2,500 bucks. And he's like, just to get it up and running. Once it's up and running, because my main concern was really getting AC in my back little hangout area for whenever I'm working on the computer, hanging out, and whatnot. I wanted to have some zone control. And he's like, hey man, if you want zone control, by the time we're done with this AC unit and then throw in the duct work that goes all the way back here, he's like, if we keep it in your main bay, we don't have to insulate it, but it's gonna take up a bunch of space. He's like, dude, you're looking every bit of $3,500. He's like, and then we've got to zone it right, and we've got to like size it properly. So I'm like, okay, well, what do you recommend? And he's like, oh, MiniSplit all the way. And I'm like, all right, how much does that cost? And out of the gate, he was like, oh, it'll be like 3,500 bucks. And I'm like, okay, so another $1,000 over what I was initially wanting to spend, but sure. 3,500 bucks to get me zone controlled, heat and AC, and be done, and that's it. We don't have to do duct work or anything. He's like, oh dude, it's gonna be way better. 3,500 was not the actual cost. It's not, it wasn't, it was 5,500 is what it cost me. After labor, all the parts runs, it was 5,500 bucks. So it was fucking expensive, and I did not really enjoy spending that much money on it. It's just not what I was wanting to do. I was wanting to spend half of that initially. But now that it's up and it's 90 degrees outside, I feel so comfortable in here. The idea behind me being so gung-ho about wanting to put AC and heat in the shop is I have worked on cars for 15-ish years now or so, a little longer. But I've never had a climate controlled space that I've worked on cars. It's always been either in a garage, or I had a garage that had propane heat in it, or I had just like a lean-to that I was working under, shit like that. And like the one garage I had propane in it, it was a shared like living space. So above the garage, there was a couple of bedrooms. And anytime I had propane running, I would get bitched at, and everybody could smell it, and it just wasn't a good idea. So I always wanted AC and heat in like a full package that didn't mess with you, no smells, wasn't a huge dent on your energy bill, didn't take a bunch of running around, like I don't have to go chop wood or get propane or shit like that. So this actually fits a lot of bills, and now that I actually have it done and running, at least in my eyes, the way that I view it as is this whole building now is a 4-season space. So now whenever, like I live in the Midwest, Southern Illinois area, so now whenever it's the dead of winter, I can still be out here working on stuff. Dead of summer, I can be out here comfortably working on stuff. And to me, I know to a lot of people it also adds value, but to me it adds so much value to be able to be in here comfortably, because I really feel like that's what we spend a lot of time and money on as humans, is to be comfortable. Everybody wants to be comfortable. And that was the price I was willing to pay to be comfortable in here, and I think it's paid off, and I think it's going really well. Other than the remotes being a little dingy, I actually haven't had too many problems. Everything's worked great. The outside unit's great. As you can see, this is where all the lines ran, and I know that you could run them outside, but I preferred it inside just because of the nature of the shop. It's an automotive shop. It's not like a finished living space. So I'd rather have all these like delicate materials that over time could erode or have some issues, that they're all just inside, and all of this stuff should remain good as long as you don't really mess with it or touch it or break it or whatever. If you were deciding whether or not to do it and money was a factor, I would go ahead and do that. Money was a factor, and it hurt to spend the money on it. But I would go ahead and do a traditional system. So I've got gas in here, and this is my gas furnace. It's a 125,000 BTU furnace. And that thing will heat this space up from like 50 to 70 in like 10 minutes. It's insane how much that thing heats. I love it. So I really would. But if you want zone control, you want to be able to, not only do I have zone control, but I can actually adjust the temperature between the two. So say I wanted to put a wall here and turn this from like 70 to 74 and then leave these at 70 or vice versa, then the rooms would actually stay a little bit more controlled separately. So that part is huge, and I do think it's much more worth it now that it's installed. I was a little hesitant while we were doing it and unpacking it. It took like a whole month to install it. He was like, oh, we'll do it over a weekend. And like end of that month, he's like, okay, we're gonna turn it on next week. And I'm like, holy shit, man. So I think if you're working in your shop and you find yourself sweating or freezing all the time, MiniSplit, definitely something that you should look into. You don't have to do as much as I did. I feel like I kind of did more bare minimum for the space. I take that back. We sized this space properly. I did not do bare minimum. This space is sized perfectly for these 3 units. And he said if we needed to add a 4th, it would be too cold in here too quickly. And I agree with him, because these will easily blast the entire space down to 70 degrees. They're set on 70, it sits on 70. So I would say if money is a factor, you're looking into something, get a traditional unit. If you can splurge and you can actually make it work, MiniSplits, I honestly think are the way to go. Maybe in a year I'll have a different outlook on it. Maybe in a year I'll hate it, or maybe if something breaks I'll hate it. But as of right now, it's working great. I love it. I feel the cold air. It feels great. You don't have to touch it. It's quiet. It's running right now and you cannot even hear it. So, all right, more later.